Welcome, everybody. Welcome to a Saturday night stream with Captain Dirty from Chaos Squad and Marcus. You guys all know them.
Hold
Guys,
on, guys.
super excited for this talk. We're going to be talking Pyro, master modes, pirating, and whatever else we can get our hands on and talk about. How are you guys doing tonight?
Got off the stream, so got me right at the right time.
Yeah, you've been hitting it real hard lately, Marcus. How are you staying awake?
I sleep very little. You know, sleep is non-existent over here. But I get my rest. I make my videos. I do this because I love Star Citizen. You know, I was never really into space games or anything space related. I was never like a Star Wars guy. But the moment I found Star Citizen, it was just like, oh, this is me right here. So the passion keeps me going, even when it's bad.
Dirty, how are you doing tonight?
This is a good night. It's a good night. I'm looking forward to doing some piracy later on and stealing some people's shit.
Sweet.
And yeah, my cat here is very interested in being on stream today, so yeah, getting off to a great start.
I feel like all streamers have cats. I feel like I'm lacking in that department. I don't have
People
any
love
animals here. I used to have a parrot though, so
yeah.
You know, if I still had my parrot, he'd probably be the star of the stream.
I really have considered it, but I just don't know if they would get along.
I haven't had a pet in a long while, and I haven't had a cat in, God, 18 years plus. 15 or 18. It's been about 20 some odd years since I've had a cat. And we had a cockatiel, little bird, and we had one of those for a long time too, but so before we get into it, where can they find you guys at? And I'll put up your links in the stream as well.
So you can find me on YouTube, Marcus189, and on Twitch at MarcusWin_.
I am at Chaos Squad on YouTube and chaossquad.us on the interwebs.
Nice.
Hold on, getting yours up there, Captain. Hold on, streamer bot's being a mess right now. I'll get yours the old-fashioned way. So before we get too far into it, Marcus, we kind of know your feelings on CitizenCon, but I was wondering if we could get yours, Captain. How did you watch any of it? Did you see any of it?
I saw clips, from some content creators that have been put together, but I have not sat down and watched, all the way through any of the presentations. I'm fucking busy, man. I ain't got that kind of fucking time, So I got the bite-sized version, and I've been talking with some of my circle who has or did watch them.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you don't have the time, what is it? 16 plus hours is a big ask for people.
It's a lot. I watched one segment, start to finish, and that was it.
Which segment do you mind? Did you catch?
It was the Master Modes one.
Ah, okay, cool. So that kind of bleeds right into it. The Zeus was the big talk of the town. How do you feel about that, Captain?
I'm looking forward to it. I've wanted a multi-cruise ship that is piracy focused, so I'm really looking at the Mark II version. Yeah. I theory craft that it might be very useful in Pyro in certain circumstances, but that remains to be seen, of course.
My guys are complaining they can't see the video from Discord.
It went blank for some reason.
That's really odd. Let me try to... There it goes. No, now it went away again. That's super odd that it's doing that. Let me try again. I don't know what's going on with that. That's weird. Huh. That's real weird. Let's see if it comes back up. I changed there it goes. It came back up again. There it goes.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. But anyways, I apologize for interrupting you, Dirty. You're excited for A multi-crew pirate ship?
Yeah. I've tried to make the Carrack work as like a, a multi-crew pirate ship, but honestly, it's, kind of a meme, really, if you're trying to do that. And, you can run the Cutlass Blue as a multi-crew, but I want to get like a group of people into a ship and have that be viable and not.
Yeah, I'm the BBC.
Right now, it's such a drawback to put all of your eggs into one basket, so to speak. You're much better off having 5 ships running around looking for targets than one. But if there's a really strong argument to be made in certain parts of Pyro to be using that ship, then I will be excited to use it in that case. Just kind of put it that way. It's all about utility for me, and what leads to the best results the most often. If it's the Zeus, fucking great. I've wanted that for a while. We'll see what happens.
So I'm a
Yeah, and to build on what you said, it has, I didn't say this in my video, but the thing I like the most about the Zeus is like the pilot weapons are right on the nose of the ship, so it's going to give you that nice close grouping. You don't have to worry about convergence or anything like that. And also with the remote turrets, it's going to have, in my opinion, similar firepower to that of a Hurricane, with the 4 size 3s on the turrets. Even though they're divided, I still look at the Hurricane as its firepower as what the Zeus's firepower could potentially be, or even greater, because it's a much larger ship. So technically, it should have bigger capacitors, but that's to be seen. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great ship with the prisoner transport pods, 16 SCU of storage. So you're going to get a lot out of that ship. It's going to be a workhorse for sure.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited
me too.
for it. So since Captain watched the master modes, and we'll start with him. Does master modes bring up any concerns for you and your gameplay loop?
I wouldn't say so. Not really. No. I think what's expected generally to happen is that master modes will decrease the skill gap a bit between the PvE and the PvP crowd, and it's my personal belief that the lower speeds will probably also help with our desync issues, at least a little bit, hopefully. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I think it'll lead to more interesting gameplay. I'm not trying to say I'm the world's greatest PvPer by any margin, but right now, PvP is either like really too easy, or it's at such high speeds that it takes upwards of 5 to 10 minutes to kill a target, and that's just not fun. So I'm really looking forward to Master Modes. I think it will make the game a much more interesting game to play. It sacrifices some of that realism, because, in space there's really nothing stopping you from going 2,000 kilometers a second if you want to, but whatever, it's a game. I think it will be more fun, so I'm looking forward to it.
How about you, Marcus? Do you see any concerns or issues?
My main concern with master modes is like it's mostly for the people who want to get away from a fight, right? So because we all know, like, right now, like, missile spam is terrible in Star Citizen, and if you are in SCM mode and you see a target that's not in SCM mode, meaning they have their shields off, you can essentially missile spam them. Now, they can get away, they can quantum boost, but the idea that they can't drop flares is ridiculous. I think that has to be changed. And some of the other questions that I have with master modes just have to do with Pyro itself, really. Because we all know that, well, not everybody knows this, but in the Pyro playground, we talked about this a little bit before the stream, how the EMPs work, how the EMPs from the solar flares will knock you out of quantum. It will shut your ship down. Now, when you're in, your quantum mode for master mode, you have no shields. So does that mean the new quantum bubble is going to protect you? Because if I'm just flying through Pyro and you know how big it is, and I have no shields to protect me from the EMP, from the solar flare, and my ship gets damaged, it's just like, well, that's going to, in my opinion, deter people from Pyro, because like I don't want to just fly to Pyro. My ship gets damaged out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I figured, I think they still need to balance that, or at least tell us like, what's the feature that's going to be.
Yeah, it's going
It
to
seems
make.
a bit overkill to me. I could see it shutting down your ship, but like damaging components and stuff, maybe I
Well,
wouldn't be shocked if they stepped that back.
yeah, that's what happened to like the girl that I was telling you guys about before the stream. But the girl that I was playing with today, she told me that because we were going down to a different part of a Pyro. They were going to Pyro 2 or 3, and I got there before because I was in the A2. I got knocked out of quantum. My shields went down, but I had 2 FR86s, so I was good. But she got knocked out, and her ship took damage because she only had one size 3 shield. I think it was whatever the base of the Great Sea one was, and her ship took actual damage. One of her weapons got damaged, and part of her wing became red. So, there's that whole aspect of it.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to hide very well if you're in mid quantum, like going across the entire system. It's going to be really hard to hide.
The planet, if you're on a planet and there's about to be a quantum or a solar flare, you can't quantum to the other side of the planet to help you get away from it. But then again, some of the planes don't have markers on the backside, so there's that too.
Interesting. So one of the things that I was wondering, Captain, was how are tactics going to change? And I know this, like all of this is theory crafting, but for sure. But are tactics going to have to change if you guys are in Blues and Mantis? And I don't know what their top speed is going to be because they're considered an interceptor, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
The Mantis, and the Blue as well, is considered an interdictor.
Right, but I know CIG had said something along the lines that interceptors were going to be treated a little bit different with the master modes.
Yes.
Are things going to have to change on your guys' ends? Because at SCMs, to turn on your quantum dampeners, to have guns, and all of that stuff, you're going to be at the slower SCM speeds, and they're going to be at the higher nav speeds or quantum speeds, but they won't have their shields.
I can see in some situations that making our intercepts and closing the gap between our target and our QED ship a bit more challenging than it is currently. But that's only a part of pirate attacks. It's one way to do it. I have a feeling that Pyro, you may end up seeing much more just like snares out in deep space or right on the other side of the jump gate. Especially considering the size of Pyro. It might make it a bit less convenient to travel around hunting. It might make more sense to just camp near the most popular stations. And I mean space stations and jump points where you're really going to see a lot of traffic. But yeah, I don't really know. It's all theory crafting right now, so It's really hard to say what the player patterns will be and where the most likely place to find a target will be. But almost certainly it's going to be like the jump point in and out. I would be shocked if that wasn't heavily camped almost all the time, if it's possible to do that.
Marcus, you got anything you'd like to add to that?
Just to build on that, I think the other locations that will be heavily camped are the UGFs, especially the supply ones, the ones where you're going to be trading your cargo at. I think those locations are also going to be heavily camped, just because it's going to be one of the only places where the traders are going to be selling and buying their cargo from. So if I know they're going there, like me, I want them to actually get their cargo, right? If they have to come to Pyro to pick something up, take it back to Stanton, I don't necessarily want to get them at the jump gate. I want them to get what they're looking for. So I may sit outside of the UGF, let them come in, get their stuff. Because most of the time, those guys aren't paying attention anyway. It's very rare that they'll actually see a ship on the ground or see a ship out there and turn around, right? So I'd rather sit out there and get them while they're in the planet, especially if they're going to be flying like a caterpillar. A C2 may be kind of hard to get because they are pretty quick in Atmo. But any other ship like a Carrack, yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking for those guys outside of UGFs.
Yeah, if it's similar to the way Stanton is right now, there will be a handful of popular trade locations that most of the traders in Pyro are going to go to. But I think the real question is how many traders are actually going to go to Pyro, especially after the first month or so when everybody's like gone and had a look and probably gotten blown up 90% of the time that they were there. I think CIG is going to really have to strongly incentivize people to even come there to see the kind of traffic to warrant me bringing 12 people out to hunt. But it's all theory at this point, so who really knows? But I've long said that I expect to continue to do most of my piracy in Stanton. But who knows what the future will hold?
Yeah, I mean that's true. Like I'm not really a pirate. I'm an opportunist, and if I just see an opportunity that presents itself, I'm gonna be where that is, because as I was saying earlier, a lot of times these traders they're not. I'm not saying that they're stupid or anything like that, but I'm just saying they lack a lot of times situational awareness,
Oh
and a
yeah,
lot of times they are alone, so they're easy to get. And if they're easy to get
right.
in Stanton, I'm gonna get them in Stanton. If they're easy to get in Pyro, I'm gonna get them in Pyro. Doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter where they go. We could have a million systems in the game. Wherever they are, I will be there, waiting.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, right? It's how long are you willing to sit in the same location waiting for somebody to show up? And if the answer is shorter in Pyro, that's where we'll be. But I I just have to wait to see what happens before I can make the call, honestly. But I am excited to explore it. I definitely want to check Pyro out. I think a lot of people will at first too. So there's going to be a lot of action at first in Pyro for at least a couple months.
I still haven't got my damn invite yet, bastards.
I haven't either.
Yeah,
Spend some more money.
Yeah,
right.
I got to go to the
Open up
pledge
your wallet.
store. I got to go to the pledge store, guys. By the way, donation. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So
Hit the donation button.
How has, and this is for specifically for Dirty, how has the game changed for you guys with salvaging being so lucrative right now? It seems like the gold trader is the legendary unicorn these days.
Yeah, we've been doing most of our camping out at the salvage yards, where there's conveniently no armistice zone, so we can just freely do whatever we want. A lot of times we'll drop the comms too, so there's no crime stat repercussions. It's been great. We've been making tons of money. I usually set up a snare and hang out, and 2 or 3 targets will just roll right into it. Half the time, they just don't even acknowledge me. They just go straight for their landing, and it's some of the easiest piracy I've done in a long time, honestly.
Captain Dirty, I want to ask you a question because
Yeah.
they've made a change to Star Citizen and particularly the map. And now that you can see quantum snare events that are happening on the map,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that change to the game?
I haven't seen it really change much of anything. I mean, yeah, I look too and I'm like, oh, yeah, there's the last 4 people we caught in the snare at the same place on Walla. Right? But, the swarms of bounty hunters are not showing up to clear us off. There, has been a little bit more talk about anti-piracy within the last 3 to 6 months, but our gameplay has not really changed at all. Usually what we see are people coming back for revenge. If we're going to get into a dogfight while we're pirating, it'll be we've killed the C, we've disabled the C2, killed the pilot, we're in the middle of looting the ship, and they come back maybe with a buddy to try and clear us off or just kill us. That's happened like less than 5 times. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
My rule of thumb is like if I go to a salvage yard, I'm in my A2, I'm bombing the hell out of that place. There's no way I'm gonna give anybody any opportunity to get me.
Nope.
And
yeah, you might as well.
And one of the things that we do, me, Scarred, and my other friend Canna, when we play, is we keep somebody as an overwatch. We never send everybody to the ground at one time. Somebody is staying up in the sky to let us know like what's coming, and that's going to be an important piece in Pyro as well. If you don't have an overwatch, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, currently our targets aren't really even getting to the ground before we'll engage them and usually chase them out to atmosphere. This makes our recovery operations much easier if we can manage to push them out into 0G. And the odds of somebody showing up to contest the site are reduced as well, the further away we are. So we don't usually do too much ground stuff. Although I guess you could just cap the pilot while they're making their way to the station, bust open the ramp, and fly the ship off. But I think it's more of a stylistic difference. We just prefer to do it in the air.
Also, with the addition of the SRV, it's going to make your piracy a lot more fun because you can essentially just disable take the shields down and just pull the ship somewhere else.
We are very excited for the SRV, and we are really hoping that we will be able to sell ships. We steal a ship, like give us an incentive to steal a ship and fly it across the system. That would be awesome. That would really strongly encourage disable gameplay and boarding gameplay. Right now with the soft deaths, every once in a while I see somebody who isn't already dead when we make it onto their ship, but that's also pretty rare. I'd say maybe 1 in 10, 2 in 10 maybe. So yeah, the SRV is going to be great. Like several of us are like, okay, our wallets are open. Where do we pay? So yeah,
coming soon. I would expect that they'll be on sale again during IAE a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Hopefully.
That's what I'm thinking.
Do we know the price range?
I don't know the price range, but I would expect to be around like between 150 and 200.
Yeah.
And so I've heard rumors. I haven't gotten into, Pyro or anything or done much testing lately. I've heard rumors that the Caterpillar's tractor beams work, and also that the C1 has tractor beams that work as well.
Yes.
So I think
Origin 315P also has a tractor beam that works.
Nice. What about the Cutlass Black? Did they forget about the Cutlass Black?
I didn't get to test that one.
Okay.
I didn't test that one yet. The EPTU has been crashing like every 10 seconds, so it's been rough.
That's not shocking.
Yeah,
that's exciting. It'll give us some more reason to pull out the Caterpillar and some of the other ships. I think we may see a lot of the C1s that seem to be a little bit more combat capable than some of those other ships. But yeah, tractor beams are long awaited, and we're super excited for them.
I'm excited for those as well. I want to know if it's even feasible to fling a ship at another ship.
It is.
You can, right?
I used the 315P, and I was picking up my my STV, and I was throwing it around.
Oh, that's
so you can
sweet.
definitely. We even tested it with the SRV with an A2 bomb, and she was able to tractor it and take it into quantum with her. So that's going to be exciting too.
That's sick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bring a nice little hot potato for wherever you show up to, and you don't even have to have an A2.
We're thinking when they have the fleet show that we're gonna arm some A2 bombs and bring them over to the UE fleet and see what happens.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Shenanigans. I'm sure there will be lots of shenanigans.
Oh yeah. See, we covered master modes a little bit, tractor beams. Everybody seems really excited about those tractor beams. That's been like other than Pyro, that's been like the talk of the town on Star
Also,
Citizen.
I hope the C2 gets the tractor beam. It really needs one.
Does it even have a spot for it?
They could just take it off one of the turrets.
That's true. That's
put it on the nose turret. Just sacrifice that for a tractor beam. It really needs it. There's no reason why I shouldn't have it.
Now you're talking modularity, Marcus.
If I could just get into the mechanics a little bit of like why the tractor beam is so important for piracy. Currently, you're most often going to see pirates and pirate groups opting for the soft death in 0G and usually in atmosphere. Also, honestly, if they have no other choice. And the reason for that is because your ship actually stops, and the pirates could then get out and move that cargo. If you disable a ship with an EMP or distortion, that doesn't happen. That ship will continue to fly for quite a long time if it's at top speed. So having the ship with a tractor beam to grab onto it and slow it down and speed that process up makes a certain type of piracy much more viable. So yeah, that's really what's in it for us.
Not only that, just to build on what you're saying, it's the ability to not only disable that ship to stop it, but now you don't even have to get your guys out into an FPS situation. You can just essentially shoot the doors open and start bringing that cargo onto your ship without having to, risk the spotty EVA that we have in the game now.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I'd want to disable, so that, I mean, yeah, you still have to EVA, but at least, like, you're not in 0G when you get into their ship. And so it makes a certain type of, like, that boarding gameplay is, like, the holy grail of piracy gameplay. It's what we all are here for, right? And so anything that gets us closer to that, like, we just start salivating. We can't help ourselves. Yeah.
So I got a better one for you.
Okay.
You didn't see CitizenCon, but I have a spoiler for you.
Sure.
The Legionnaire's in production. It's supposed to be released.
So.
It's supposed to be coming out within the next 12 months. Because they put up all of these ships that are coming out in the next year. How do you feel about the Legionnaire, and what is that going to do for piracy?
Yeah, so I think if light fighters are going to be viable outside of like the closest planet or two to the jump gate, we need something like the Legionnaire. It's not really going to be practical to bring like a Carrack and a light fighter. We need a true carrier, and a light carrier is fine. That's acceptable. It's a great place to start. We need some kind of platform to launch for light fighters from, if we're going to utilize light fighters in the far reaches of Pyro without stopping for gas every 10 minutes, which will be very tedious. So yeah, I've been thinking for a while that the Legionnaire ought to come out with Pyro, considering its size. So if that happens, I'm going to be super stoked, and probably, it's going to be very tempting to buy that one. What's the price tag on that one? What should I be preparing myself for?
I would say probably around 300, maybe.
Oh, that's not awful.
I can't see being more expensive than a mole, because a mole's like what, 400, 350, 400?
Seriously?
Yeah, mole's like 350.
Yeah,
it's 350.
Wow, they're really robbing those miners. We were robbing the miners. It's fucking CIG all along. Dread Pirate Chris Roberts.
Wait,
yeah, the original griefer.
Adam Warlock is saying at the moment the Legionnaire is 120. So
are you kidding me?
You might want to get on that.
I might get
you
it
might
now.
want to have to get on that now.
And you can buy it now. It's in store.
I'll wait for Adam to respond, but hopefully.
I'm looking right down, man. It is. I might have to eat some noodles for a little bit.
I got $60 like left over, so that's really tempting. It's so dangerous, man. Like when you melt something down, you've got another $60 just hanging out. Like, it's not doing anything for me there. What else can I buy? And suddenly you're in for another $60, $100.
I've been looking to get rid of my STV anyway. It's like I don't even use that thing.
The what?
My STV. I don't even use it.
Yeah, I melted my STV a long while ago from that, and I think I threw like an extra $50 at it and got a Gladius. Because there's no point in having it. I got it just for the LTI token. Is the only reason why I got it. It was $40. I think it was $40. Yeah, I just got it for the LTI token, and it hung out. And I think I called it out of its hangar one time the entire time I owned it. It's fun, but It's, I mean, what I do in the game, I don't really use ground vehicles too often. It's like, oh, we're doing Ghost Hollow. All right, let me save up a little with cash, or excuse me, let me do a salvage run real quick, and I'll buy like 15 ballistas.
I was gonna say, maybe you all know, like the last time I tried to use ground vehicles was about, I don't know, a month, 2 months ago, and we all ended up like rolling down the side of a mountain. Do you actually stick to the surface now? I heard some like whispering in the dark about that, but I don't know if that's actually true.
So they've made it better and also worse at the same time.
Classic.
See, before
Of course they
before you used to be able to do like these nice jumps with your ground vehicles and you could somewhat land, but what they've effectively done is made the front of every vehicle super heavy. So now if you jump over something, the front of your vehicle points towards the ground and you just go tumbling, and you don't always flip back over right away. So in my Ursa, I came out of my A2 and the game glitched and I went flying like 90 kilometers. I landed upside down and was stuck upside down in my Ursa for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, okay, the last time I tried to use ground vehicles, it was like the same fucking thing. We knew there were ground targets that were camping. It was like SMO 22 or whatever, 18 something. I'm like, oh, okay, great. We're gonna load up our C2. We're gonna get all the ballistas and the tanks, and we needed fucking 2 C2s to carry it all over, and we finally got there an hour later. And it wasn't 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, where all of us had flipped over and like, okay, that was wow, that was some real waste of time. We're not doing this again. So man, okay, well, sounds like they got a little ways to go.
Yeah, but I will say this though, in Pyro, ground vehicles will be more prevalent, especially if you want to like lock down like an outpost for like a little bit and you don't want anybody coming in. A couple of ballistas, a couple of tanks, and you can pretty much, you know, shoot down anybody that comes, because like I said, I've been playing the Pyro demo and people are playing Pyro the same way they play Stanton. And me in Pyro, I shoot first, ask questions later. Any person I see, I don't care what they're in. I'm flying my A2. I fought a Harbinger this morning. I fought an F7. You know what I'm saying? I fought everybody. I don't care who it is. Bring it.
I watched the F7 fight.
Yeah, I don't care who it is. Like, bro, like, I'm not gonna be like, I'd rather go down dying, fighting, instead of being a soft target. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I just want to touch on real quick, guys. If you're going to Pyro, do not come with this soft shit, because people are gonna push you all over the place. Like, if you're not going there and you're not ready for a fight, just don't go there to begin with, because it's ruthless over there, as Marcus said. It's ruthless.
You need hippo skin going to Pyro.
So
yeah,
it's not personal.
I just want to piggyback on what you just said, Scarred, because here's my real concern about Pyro coming into Star Citizen. We'll just go by the 80-20 rule. Let's just say 80% of the players in Star Citizen are PvE players. They're here to either do industrial stuff or like run solo missions. They're not interested in doing player versus player fighting. They generally are averse to PvP. The other 20% are looking for a fight, right? Now, if say most of that 20% of PvPers are over in Pyro, and Pyro is 3 times larger than Stanton, I worry that the amount of people coming into Pyro to do trading and thus opportunistic piracy targets for me and my crew will be so few that I don't know if we will really be spending much time in Pyro to do like piracy. So it remains to be seen, but I do have some really serious concerns about. Well, I'm not really that concerned about it. There will be people to pirate it, and we'll follow them wherever they go. But yeah, I'm really doubtful of. I mean, just based on some of the responses that we're seeing in the forums on Reddit and Spectrum about, how Pyro is not the system for me. I don't know if you have seen that post or not, but yeah, I just think that's a lot of people are just gonna like check it out and be like, that was cool. I'm going back to Stanton. What are y'all's feelings on that? Do you think Pyro will attract most of the players and retain them, or do you think eventually you do?
I do. It's because of like some of the stuff they were saying at CitizenCon. They're gonna have things in Pyro, things that you can only get in Pyro. Like they're gonna have different kind of blueprints, and they're gonna have ship manufacturing. So there's gonna be like ship schematics that you can only get by going to these UGFs and Pyro. So for instance, let's just say they do a dynamic event and it's like a raid event for Pyro, and you have to go to the UGF, and the grand prize is you get the schematics to build a Kraken. Like everybody's going to go to Pyro to do that. You know what I mean? So they're going to introduce things into the game that kind of forces players' hands, and I think they will change the economy. I think the value of commodities in Stanton will go down substantially, and things will be much more valuable in Pyro. As far as like taking those commodity or selling those commodities in Pyro, you're going to make a lot more money.
Yeah, I can see something like ship schematics, ship blueprints drawing some of that 80% PvE crowd into Pyro. But that assumes that a lot of like other tech exists, which I'm not sure that we'll see when Pyro comes out. But if we do, then that certainly could do it. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
I
do have another question for you.
Yeah.
Because base building is going to come into the game
Mhm.
within the next year. They're going to start working on it Q1 of 2024. How is that going to change piracy in Star Citizen?
That's going to give pirate groups the option, hopefully, to operate without the need to rely on NPC stations. If we can set up a point in deep space and resupply it with what we steal, and use that as a place to spawn, refuel, repair, get medical aid, hopefully eventually even sell things. I'm not sure if that will be early or late, but if we can even sell or put up our goods for sale at that location, that's going to give us the opportunity to really fly under the radar. And so if groups do pop up that are patrolling around the more advertised NPC run stations, and it becomes difficult for us to do that, which I don't know, maybe that's a possibility, but I think just honestly for the cool factor of having our own spot, we'll do that, and hopefully it will also be useful, other than just like having a convenient place of our choosing. I'd like there to be deeper incentives than that.
Do you think that the pirates will start looking for more outposts to hit instead of looking for ships?
It depends. I think we will find people just putting outposts in bad spots. I mean, just like you find people who are rock mining 20 kilometers away from the station on, whatever, Aberdeen. You're going to find people building bases in dumb places too, and they're going to immediately get raided. Yes. It depends if we're going to like do concerted efforts to like, go through deep space. You need like long range scanning to make something like that viable. We don't have that yet. So the only other option would be like espionage, which probably will happen when people start having things like bases that are persistent and have things of value in them that other players want to take. Yeah, I'd be shocked if there weren't some espionage type things happening at that point in the game, because how else would you find the bases?
Yeah. I think that the what they talked about with the Drake Cutter Scout and its scanning capabilities, I think that's going to be one of the one of the main ships that pirates are going to be using, because they're talking about it can detect if a ship has its quantum drive spooled. It can set a quantum marker to that location. The Cutter Scout is going to be a very useful pirate ship, as part of the pirate fleet whenever that ship and the scanning capabilities get put into the game.
I wonder if
Something like that would be great.
I wonder if they'll
Sorry.
update the Terrapin, because the Terrapin is supposed to have those long range scanning capabilities as well.
Yeah, the Mantis, when I purchased it years ago at this point, was advertised as having the ability to track people traveling in quantum. So I'd love to see something like that to make our jobs a little bit, I don't know, more, I don't want to say easier, but like to make it more interesting than just like, all right, well, let's just hang out at the most popular spot and wait. If there are some other mechanics at play that we can use to more actively search for targets that may be even more valuable, then yeah, we'll definitely be using them.
Yeah, because my plan with the Cutter Scout is I simply just put inside of my A2 and use the Scout scanner inside of my ship and look for targets, and then set a marker and go there, and then we have a big enough ship to take out most other things out there in the verse.
So what is the Cutter Scout now already have like long range scanning capabilities? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has it, but it's
Okay.
not the mechanics are not fully fleshed out into the game. And the reason I believe that they're not in the game just yet is because all that system is tied to the new star map, and the new star map's not in the game yet. So once we get the new star map, I think the scanning stuff is going to be in the game soon after.
How long are, like, what is the maximum range on those scanners?
I don't remember how far they said it can go, but it's supposed to be like pretty far.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's supposed to be bigger. The sensor package is supposed to be bigger and better than anything that we have in the game currently.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about something that can scan a whole star system for something like space station sized, then that really changes the math on that. Like I would hope that there was some possibility for you to place your station in a clever location where there was, not the immediate possibility of it getting, spotted right away. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Right.
I'd like to touch on the base things. So I played DayZ for a while, and like you were saying, Dirty, there are people that show up on these servers and they think this is a good spot to build a base, and there was no thought put into it. They're easy to find, they're easy to get into. Sometimes it's as simple as just put a backpack on the ground, stand on it, and initiate the mounting animation, and you're in. On top of that, I would have to say, of all the gameplay I've ever done, even in Star Citizen, it's never quite got my blood going like kicking in somebody's front door and attempting to take their stuff. It's a crazy rush. Whether you lose, whether you win, whether you get away clean, there's no rush like it. Even if you're inside and there was nobody there, you don't know if they're going to log on. And if they do log on, where are they going to spawn at? Like, are they going to be in the base? Are they going to be outside of the base? Are they going to be next town over? Like it's a rush like I've never had before.
Yeah, I wonder how CIG is going to make it play out. There are a few things about bases. Like one, we already have server issues with the amount of entities that are existing in the universe. And so if it's littered with these stations, some of them abandoned, there needs to be some way to be clearing them out. And if that is, we can just find them, take them, clear them out and salvage it for scrap, then that's awesome. That's a player driven solution that I think is great.
They did say that there was a mechanic to where you can tear down what you have built, but I don't know if that means you can also go and take what somebody else's has built and turn it into like a raw resource at a loss.
Yeah, see, I think it should be possible to do that. for gameplay reasons, like what Scott was just saying, like that's incredible gameplay. It brings an amount of um, stakes to the game that don't exist otherwise. We don't have Death of a Spaceman, so like, yeah, you die, you lose your gear, whatever, you just respawn, buy some more for almost nothing, and you're right back up in 5 minutes, right? But if you're losing a base that you and your crew have spent days, weeks, months setting up and filling with resources, and it's possible to lose that, then the stakes become so much higher, and it's really going to get people's hearts pumping and get them into the game. The flip side of that, though, is it's a game, like you're going to have orgs that are, worldwide in every time zone in order to defend your base 24/7. And that's realistically just not going to happen, right? Due to like language and other issues. So there needs to be some kind of mechanic, I think, to stop people from just like stomping your base after you and your crew log off. And so I don't really know how they're going to do that exactly. I know what Eve did, but I'm interested to see the approach that CIG takes.
Yeah, if they're 100% persistent all the time, I think that could run into some issues. It's just like, man, I wasn't logged on, and like, like they're gonna have to want people to want to build bases, and knowing that if I log off, my base also it gets destroyed. Maybe the resources can be raided from it, but maybe not taking down the building, the structures themselves. I think that would be a fair mechanic. Like your base is still there, but if you're logged off, then they can't, take your base and turn it into like a raw resource. They can take like your fuel, they can take like all your loot and whatever goods you have there, but they can't actually tear down the base itself if you're logged off. I think that'd be a fair mechanic.
Yeah, I'd say you need to be able to move that base at maybe some cost, right? Because like if my base already got hit while I was offline, I'm not going to then like start just filling it back up, because people are just going to come back, right? So I think that would work if it would be a good compromise if you could move your base.
They did talk about that.
Yeah, did they?
You can't move it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
So you're gonna need. I think they said the Galaxy is gonna get some some base building capabilities, and they're talking about a ground vehicle as well. And there's another big ship. The chat probably correct me. Chat's always right. There's another bigger ship that also does the base building as well.
Yeah, the Pioneer.
Pioneer.
The way I just actually rewatched that because I tried to rewatch a bunch of this stuff before we went into it, so I had it fresh in my mind. There's a ground vehicle that does light buildings, then the Galaxy does like medium buildings, and then the Pioneer does the largest buildings. And I would assume the Pioneer could do probably medium and heavier buildings, but can't do the light ones, which you would need the vehicle to do the light ones for. So we'll see how they actually work it all out. I'm sure that like if you have the Galaxy, it might be able to do the light buildings and the medium buildings, but it won't be able to do the heavy and so on. So that's what I'm assuming they'll do. And I'd like to bring up DayZ again. They can't do this on Star Citizen servers, but every DayZ server I've played on, and it's been about 4 of them, you can't. Certain servers have times where you can raid, and then if you try to do it before or after that time, your explosives don't work on the base. If you found a way in and you weren't supposed to be in there during that time, you could get punished for being in there, various things like that. But I don't see how they would be able to implement that with what they're going for, with what CIG has stated they're going for. But there would have to be some sort of offline protection mode or something or like you said, be able to only really take the raw materials, but you can't really destroy the base or sell it off as raw material. There's got to be some way to, so that way if you're not at home, you're not getting your bases and getting it shit pushed in while you're not there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even like a subscription-based service. Oh shit, fucking cats. So like I could see like I'm thinking of like, well, okay, if we can't destroy these bases, and salvage them for scrap, then they're just going to hang out somewhere in space until what? Like the player deactivates their accounts, isn't around for 60 days. There's got to be something there
Well,
for them to clean up their, the game environment.
yeah, there's got to be like maybe if you haven't been to your base in so long, it despawns or deteriorates, and the more it deteriorates and the longer you haven't been on, then it eventually just disappears or
Well,
deletes.
I know they're supposed to have like mechanics where you have to do like the upkeep of like your buildings and stuff. They're not just gonna be, oh, I build my building and now it persists forever. Like you have to like upkeep your stuff or it's going to fall apart over time. The same thing they were talking about with the ships, like how you have to upkeep your ships and do the maintenance on the ships and make sure like everything's working right, or else their ship's not going to function properly. It's going to be the same thing with the bases, I would assume.
I would
Unless you
Okay.
need help from the copium.
Well, it smells good, and I like to take deep breaths of it. I don't know. I'm excited for base building. It's just I've tried to explain to some of the people that watch this channel that don't play games like DayZ or Rust or various other base building games that once you build a base, whether you're by yourself or with a group of players, you're pretty much married to that base, and you are going to have to constantly get resources for it. You're going to constantly have to be fixing it, have to constantly be checking on it, make sure nobody went in there while you were gone. Is my defenses adequate, et cetera, et cetera. And it becomes less about, I don't want to say less about playing the game, but it becomes less about where you want to go and how you want to do it, and more about, well, what's going on with my base.
That's why I will use other people's bases.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I would like to see with the base building. It's just, is CIG going to actually do it?
Yeah, I'm interested to see it, and to try it out and see how we can make it work. Although I will say I've always kind of envisioned, Chaos Squad being a mobile, right, and our base of operations being a Kraken or two, and whatever other logistics ships that we need to operate, and like ideally, staying on the move on a fairly regular basis and not like having the time to set up a base somewhere because we're pirating in the same location so frequently. I'd like it to be more dynamic than that. But definitely, yes, excited about base building. We'll definitely give it a shot and see if we can make it work, make it viable.
I know they said they were going to try to do stuff in space, but I'd like to see them just get one foot in front of the other and get a stable footing before they go from ground bases to space built bases. Although it would be super awesome to just build your base on the side of a huge ass asteroid.
So is it not going to be possible to build a space station? You have to be on like a surface of some kind?
They didn't really say. They just kind of right at the end were like, yeah, and the possibilities of building in space are endless. And then the dude walked off the stage. So, typical CIG thing.
I think we're going to see ground bases much earlier than we're going to see space stations, because I think the space station is going to be pretty difficult for them to do. I think in terms of, well, I take that back, because I remember an ISC episode where they were talking about space stations and people being able to make them eventually. So I don't know how difficult it will be, but I think the upkeep and the maintenance of a space station is going to be much harder than it is of a ground base.
Same.
I'd hope so, yeah, because of the advantages you'd have in hopefully hiding it. They need to counterbalance that in some way.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you can like maybe go to the asteroid belt of whatever planet Yella and set up a small tiny base there. That would be cool, but I don't know. I just think that putting them on a surface on a planet or moon or something is kind of asking for them to be found when everybody is buzzing around at whatever speeds. and just can like scan the horizon for, oh look, somebody built a medium-sized base over there. Let's go fuck that shit up.
I think mostly they're trying to do that for resource gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be places where you can mine certain things, and it's going to be very lucrative. Places like Pyro, they're going to have certain things that are lucrative, and if you can mine that resource and then take it back to Stanton and sell it, or you have something in Stanton that's needed in Pyro, and you can mine it in Stanton and take it to Pyro. I think that's the kind of gameplay they're going for.
Speaking of which, I think it was Adam Warlock said that Red Monster SC was out in Pyro mining, and he said they found 4 new minerals, and 2 of them are just slightly below Quantanium levels of selling. So there's that out there as well. He didn't give me the details on it, but that might be enticing some of the miners to go out there and try their luck.
Yeah, I guess the size of Pyro does play into their hands as well, as long as they can get past the jump gate choke point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm super interested to see what it's going to be like on either side of the jump gate once it goes live.
If it's not a dozen guns pointed at you, I will be shocked.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. But I think most of the people that are going to do the PvP stuff, I think they're going to set up on the other side of the jump gate initially. They're going to set up in Pyro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, you get the traffic going both ways,
Yeah.
at the jump gate.
Me, like, I want to be a friend of pirates, because one of the things that I saw already is they don't have a lot of the weapons and components that pirates may need. So I would like to be a friend of pirates and run guns for pirate orgs back and forth between the jump gates.
Ooh, gun running.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a gun runner in Star Citizen, but it was never really a viable way to actually.
Well, if you looked at the ISC, there was one point where they showed a whole C, and it had like A2 bombs on the cargo grid. It had some other weapons on the cargo grid. I was like, I would love to do that with my A2. Just run guns for pirates and give them components, give them everything that they need, so they can take care of the Care Bears. You know what I mean?
We'll be buying lots of torpedoes.
Yeah.
And using them right then and there at the jump gate.
Yeah. So yeah, Captain Dirty, if I we can build an alliance right here. I could be your gun runner for your guys.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be set up in Pyro, whatever you need, just call a friend. I got you.
I could definitely see a future where that might be very useful for us.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of fun things that could come out of Pyro, and an addition of a new system. And if they could just get it here a little bit faster, I can't wait. And give me my damn invite, Chris. I know you got people out there.
If they continue at this rate, I could honestly see a Pyro release around this time next year, maybe a little bit later.
I could
2025 at the latest, because Pyro is essentially like almost finished. They don't need much else. I mean, there are some graphical errors. There are some errors getting out of bed after you die, walking into walls, ending up in space. That is an issue. But
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at you, Marcus.
There isn't as much jank as we see in like other builds of Star Citizen. What we have here is a near complete product. And I think that it's more or less just them getting the server meshing to work in the way that it needs to, so it can be an enjoyable experience.
That's going to really be the hurdle, right? Is making the tech work and like delivering a patch that isn't super jank when they have to deploy it at scale. I hope that they take their time with it and like have a semi decent patch. I mean, you have to expect some bugs and stuff, but I'd like to avoid like a 3.18, 3.19 type of situation when that stuff goes live. Wouldn't we all? Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen much of it. I've looked at some of the stuff, but it does look like Pyro is pretty close to complete. And so it really comes down to those mechanics and um, tech to make it happen. So I don't know. Does a year sound realistic? Maybe I might say more like year and a half.
Well, the reason I
But
say that
yeah, I
is
don't know.
because the reason I say that is because Squadron 42 is feature complete, so
Right.
they're not doing anything else for Squadron 42. They're not adding anything else extra to the game.
Yeah.
They're just polishing it. So like all of those devs are going back to Star Citizen now. So that's why I said we could probably see a lot of this stuff really ramping up. I mean, I have 3 versions of
Hope so.
this game on my PC right now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I got the live, I got the EPTU, and I have the Pyro playground, which is crazy to think about. Like this time last year, we were just like so upset and so frustrated, and now like what a difference a year makes, you
I
know,
mean, I
to be
mean,
at this point.
you could go back 3 months ago and say
Oh
how
yeah,
angry and disappointed a lot of us were. Um, Captain wanted to try to keep this at about 90 minutes, and
okay.
we're getting there. So here's what I wanted to ask. A few things about that, since we were bringing up kind of the last year of Star Citizen. Just looking at 320, 321, 322, soon. It really seems like they are trying to stuff these patches with a lot more features, and it seems like it's coming faster and faster. Do you think we're going to start seeing, and I quote this, but more completion of features soon?
I'd love it. Yeah. I hope so. I'm always very, very cautiously optimistic with Star Citizen. I'd love to see this stuff happen. Um, and I hope that it does. I hope that it does, but I don't rest. Um, I'm not like holding my breath for it. You know what I mean? It'll happen when it happens, and I hope honestly that they take their time with the stuff and deliver it when it's in a playable state. And honestly, even before all of that stuff, like right now, the game servers are fucking garbage. I don't know if you all been
Yep.
playing PU lately, but the desync is terrible. It's barely playable. I'm gonna check it out again tonight and hope it goes better. But I would love for them to just like get their shit together and give us a game that like plays at a reasonable point. And I know I'm just like winching here. It's an alpha and all of that stuff, but like at a certain point it's got to start happening, and it's like it can't happen soon enough.
Well, just to build on what you're saying, I think now that Squadron 42 is complete, like there's no more excuses. There's no more like, oh well, we had to do this for Squadron 42
Yeah.
and we had to do that for Squadron 42. Now it's just like, okay, well, you said, Chris, that Squadron 42 is feature complete. You're not doing anything else. So let's get this live environment into a better and playable state. And
Yeah.
one of the things that they came out and admitted, Chris or somebody wrote a Spectrum post talking about their database and how they bought this database and it didn't work and they had to get another one. And
Right.
I was, and I talked to somebody else offline who does, that type of work. They're just like, if they really needed a database, they could hire a good database engineer and get it done in a month. If they had a good team, a week. So at this point, like I get it, they have this licensed tech and they have to allow this company X amount of times to fix it. But at some point, you just got to pull a plug on something and be like, hey, we have this game, we have all these backers, we've made all this money. We just need something that works. And I think now is the time for them to shut up and prove it. No more excuses. Either you put out a good product or it's not a good product. There's no more of this hiding behind Squadron 42 anymore.
I think you're right. I mean, Squadron 42 is feature complete, so it's going to need probably some storyboard people, probably some artists still to actually complete the missions and all of that stuff. There's still going to be some resources there. I'm sure they will float that excuse. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of it. But I do think you're right that they have to be transitioning those, programmers and developers who are more focused on the technologies and game mechanics over to Star Citizen and PU, and hopefully some of these some of what they've done on Squadron 42 can just be ported right in without too much trouble. I don't know. Well, I guess that remains to be seen. But yeah, you're totally right, man. It's their days of using that excuse, I think, are definitely numbered.
Yes, yes, very much so. So here's another good one. There's a lot of people that said this year for them was a make or break year, and we saw a lot of content creators walk away from Star Citizen, especially over the summer. You know, Grumpy Eye, Star Streams, and Ollie took a huge break. You know, a lot of people either took a long break or walked away completely and said their goodbyes. Um, I'm in it for the long haul. Do you think this year is the make or 2023 is the make or break year, or do you think that now that after saying Squadron 42 is feature complete and the CitizenCon we just had, do you guys think that the goalpost has moved yet again, and now 2024 is definitely the year that's going to make or break what happens in the verse?
You want to go first, Marcus?
Yeah, I can go first. I think this year was a make or break year. I think if they didn't make any more progress on Squadron 42, if we didn't get that announcement that it was feature complete, I think that convention center would have been set on fire, like by those guys there. You know what I mean? So, but I also think that they said they have all these features coming out for Star Citizen over the next 12 months. They got the ships, they're going to be rolling out features. And I think it's up to them to deliver each and every one of those features. Like nothing can ever be delayed ever again. Everything has to be right on time. And it has to be, we have to get smooth patches over the next year. I think if they can do that, they're going to be in a good position. If they don't do that, if they come out with any more excuses, I think people are going to be like, you know what? I've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You know, this year was pretty bad. I started back in like 3.09 or so, and it was pretty bad then too. Like you'd 30K every 15 to 30 minutes if you were lucky. And it sucked. You could playing was painful. Um, we've gotten much better and we've taken steps back, and you know it was a really bad year in terms of patches. At least the first two were just terrible, and it didn't break it. You know, a lot of people walked away. I definitely slowed down on making videos. I still play almost twice a week, every week, but my desire to make additional content has really faded a lot this year, and so I do think that they've set the bar very high for themselves. If they can deliver on a lot of that content, I think it will be really good for them, obviously. But you know, I really don't expect them to. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't think they're going to deliver on every single thing that they promised. I think they'll probably hit 50%, maybe 75 if we're lucky, within the next like year, just based on their pace of development over the last like 3 years. You know, it starts and stops, but like they're promising so much. They're promising server meshing, they're promising Pyro, they're promising base building, they're promising tractor beams, and a lot of the stuff is, you know, at least partially there, but bringing it into live, I think, based on what we've seen with the last few patches, we may be in for some surprise rough patches coming forward. And I think you're right when you say that like they really need to deliver solid patches or their player base is going to get, they're going to go right back to disillusioned and frustrated. Right now we're on the hype train and everybody's high on look at all this cool stuff. And that's great, you know, for the game and for CIG. But I think that they should really take their time and deliver working products, and that doesn't jive with going fast and delivering the world. So we'll see where it falls. But yeah, I don't think it's going to make or break it either. I think Star Citizen is just going to keep on going, unless I don't know, even know. So, I think it's going to be fine.
I think it'll be fine funding wise. It's just what's it going to do media wise for them? I mean, they're already looked at as, you get one of three type viewpoints. I'm sure there's more, but the most common I see is scam, greatest game ever, and then the worst game I've ever played. Kind of vibes when I see the media start diving into it. So a couple more questions and then we'll wrap this up. We're getting closer and closer to that 90-minute mark. This CitizenCon really seemed to bring out, I hate using these words a lot, but the biggest of the big influencers were tuned in and watched some of it. How do you guys feel about the outsiders coming in and looking at this game and exposing it more? Is it good? Is it healthy? Is it healthy to do it now, or do we need to wait more before we can really get some of those guys to hype up Star Citizen?
So I think we can. How many? I know that Asman watched some of the content on his stream. What other folks were there? Because I think if they're showing these people something in sitcon and a controlled environment where they're reasonably sure that these guys are going to get a decent experience, and also it's going to be difficult for them to record that and then show the world what that is, that's good for the game. If these big name people can put a lot of eyes on Star Citizen and Star Citizen delivers, it looks good, it plays good, you can do cool shit and tell cool stories in it, that's amazing for Star Citizen. But I guess, why haven't we seen Asmon Gold play Star Citizen? Is it because the game's really not ready for that audience? And I think the answer to that is yes. Star Citizen is not ready for that audience right now. If those folks tune into Star Citizen, they'll be like, "What the fuck is this busted shit? I'm out." Most of them. Some will stick around, I'm sure, but as far as the mainstream audience goes, I don't know if Star Citizen is in a state for that level of exposure.
I would have to agree with that to a certain extent. I just hope they play it so I can pirate them and I can mine their salt, and but yeah, I think it's good overall. It's good. Dr. Disrespect also reacted to it. He's even bigger than Asmon Gold is, at least on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think it's good, and they both reacted to the Squadron 42 I Held the Line, and they both reacted to the Star Engine demo, and they were both impressed by it. So that's good. And I would hope that CIG would see that, and then in the coming months invite them to try it, to play the game. I think that would be good if they can start reaching out, because Star Citizen has its content creators, its big content creators, but getting some of the more mainstream guys into the game is where they're really going to take off.
Yeah, it'll bring in money. But kind of what I think Scard was saying, Star Citizen gets so much negative press as it is already. I do have a concern that they would be drawing a lot more if I don't know, these guys are trying to play it and they spend 30, 45 minutes trying to get something happening and run into all of the problems that we all know are ever present. It just would look so bad for it. I know games crash all the time, but Star Citizen is another thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say not like Star Citizen.
I honestly believe that if they do anything with content creators, it will probably be more based on Squadron 42 than the live universe, because they can control that more. And
that's a good point.
I think most people that watch streams, I know people that play a lot of live games, but I think that telling the story of Squadron 42 and showing the gameplay of how Star Citizen kind of is would be a good entryway and then they could be like, oh, by the way, they have a live universe where you can do anything, and that could be a good segue. If That's why I say CIG, they need to hire me, because I have the best ideas and I could really help them in the marketing department, and not really just have them doing the nonsense they're doing right now. Like, you have some good things going for you here, CIG. Maximize it instead of doing what you're doing right now.
I mean, you talked me into going and buying the Legionnaires, so you've got that going for you already.
I'm the ship salesman,
right?
That's what I do. I sell ships.
So maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. So my next question is, since we talked about the big time YouTubers covering this and whatnot, Asmon and Dr. Disrespect are both mainstream, right? But they control very big sections of the mainstream. Dr. Disrespect is more the FPS and the tournament style and the battle royale type gameplay, and Asmon's more of the WoW and the New World and the MMO type crowd. Do you think that either one of those groups would even fit into Star Citizen, or is Star Citizen just not a game for the mainstream and never will be?
It's vastly different than the games that I see either of them playing. Although Asmon, I have to say, doesn't really play a whole lot of games from what I can tell. He mostly just reacts these days.
Yeah, not anymore.
But as far as his audience goes, it's all, I think you're right, the RPG, action RPG, MMO stuff. And it's not really an MMO. It's not really any of those things. That's kind of the beautiful thing about Star Citizen, is it's all of those things. It's an FPS, it's a simulation. It's getting towards being a massively multiplayer role-playing game, although I think it's got a few steps to go before that's a satisfying experience. But with like the faction and stuff coming in, I think they're well on their way to getting to that point in a sandbox environment. Yeah. What was the question again? I think I just kind of
derailing.
The thought train derailed.
Do you think either of those two groups would be would they be able to fit into this game, or do you think that Star Citizen is just so niche that most mainstreamers aren't going to actually get into it?
It needs to be cool enough that different types of players enjoy the game for what it is, because it's not the first-person shooter experience. I mean, you get a little bit of that, but it's a fraction of the gameplay, and same goes for the MMO stuff. Although it could be, I think Star Citizen has the potential to be an extremely immersive experience that could really satisfy people who yearn for an MMO experience that just isn't really around anymore, and a lot of that has to do with the community and the excitement of something that's just new and different. Star Citizen, I think, has some potential there to do that.
Yeah, I think if anybody fits in easier, it's the FPS crowd, because they already kind of have the PvP mindset, and I think in terms of that, they could probably fit into the game a little bit more. But it really boils down to who can overcome the learning curve of Star Citizen and stick through it, because that first month learning curve is, man, it's something if you don't have somebody there to kind of show you around and show you what to do in the game. And that's why I said the Squadron 42 aspect of, maybe with these streamers, give them Squadron 42 first, get them playing demo versions of that, so they can get used to the Star Citizen game mechanics and how the game actually plays, before hopping into the live universe, where it's just you're a million miles an hour, and you're also going nowhere at the same time when you're new.
Mm-hmm. I remember that feeling. Wasn't too long ago. It was only a year and a half ago, and that first month was rough. Whenever my buddy wasn't on, and it was just me, man. I think I'm surprised Everest Harbor does not have a permanent dent from me running my MSR into the side of it so many times. Or not my MSR, my Aurora, MR Aurora.
Yeah, you can really tell when somebody is on their first or maybe even second or third day of trying to fly a ship or land a ship
Yeah.
in Star Citizen. You roll up on them on the station, you're like, oh, this dude's still trying to figure it out. We might as well leave him alone. He ain't got nothing but pizza boxes in there, right? But
Right.
yeah, I think the single player experience is going to draw a lot of players to it, and they're going to learn how to play the game there before coming to the PU. So it might reduce the amount of just straight up noobs you see.
Canop was saying he couldn't get out of his hab for the first few days.
I mean,
Yeah.
who didn't? Who did not immediately when they finally figured out how to turn their ship on? Jam that spacebar button or up or whatever you have and fly into the fucking closed hangar doors above you. Like everybody,
Yeah.
Marcus,
Yeah.
we all did it. We all did it, right?
The green's green. My
It's
answer.
just how you learn.
I didn't go up into the hangar. I went into the hangar door. I went forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Knocked the weapon off my Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I repair my ship?
Yeah, those days were rough, man. I remember those days, and they were rough. Like the first day my friend wasn't online, I'm sitting here at my computer. I had my phone with the YouTube. Like I don't even remember who it was. I don't think they even make Star Citizen content, but it was like it came out for 316 was the guide, and it's your first half hour in Star Citizen. This is what to do, and I'm sitting there like pausing that and then like running into the where was I think I was at area 18, like trying to navigate the hallways, and I'm like, I'm lost. Where is this guy at? Okay, I saw that sign. This is where I should go. And like it took me 2 hours to get out of area 18. It was ridiculous. But yeah, it was I kind of miss those days not knowing anything about the game.
Yeah, it honestly reminds me of EverQuest. I don't know if either of you put any time into playing EverQuest.
Man. That's
But
old.
like, remember those cities and just like
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to get around those
EverQuest.
towns is so difficult. And I can't believe we're this far later and we have something like fucking Loreville, and you're like, I've been playing this game for a long fucking time. I have no idea how to get around anywhere from like outside of from the hab to the spaceport. Anything beyond that, I'm getting lost. I'm gonna have to go open a YouTube video.
I still get lost in Loreville.
It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable in 2023. Like they need to get their shit together and give us something that makes sense.
Like the star map. I want to ask you guys, like, what feature that are you guys wanting first? Like, if Chris Roberts called either one of you and said, which feature do you want first? We're gonna roll it out. Go.
Captain, I'll let you go first. Mine's short and simple.
If we include Pyro in that, I think it's got to be Pyro. Just to shake things up and give us something different.
My answer is star map all the way. I've been doing a lot of group play, whether if it's with Blackjack Bill or Marcus and Canop or Pagan. I'm kind of like the social butterfly. I go around to all the different groups and get into whatever hot mess they're getting into. And every time the group gets bigger than like say 2 or 3, as soon as that 4th, 5th, 6th person gets added, the star map gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And there's times where you can't even jump to a person, and you have to leave the group, jump to the point of interest, ask for an invite back. It's so aggravating. Just give me the map. I mean, I would say desync, but server meshing, TM.
I would say the star map as well, just because like that system ties into every other system. Like it's going to give you a map of your current location. It's going to give you an interior map of your ship. It changes everything. And I think that's like the major quality of life update that we need in the game. Like the star map can't come soon enough.
I agree.
Honestly, if we're including fixing desync and just making the game play, I would retract my statement and say that's what I really want.
I would too.
Yeah,
I would too. Yeah. But we know they're working on it. It's just when is it going to happen? Marcus pointed out they're changing over database handlers. They're changing over their network. They're trying to do so many things behind the scenes, and I get that and I understand that. I'm just, man, I've been playing this for a year and I haven't seen the desync be this bad since 318 dropped, and it has not gotten any better. If anything, and you guys can correct me if you think otherwise, but I think it's gotten worse as the year has progressed.
Oh yeah, it has. Like today, I was doing the Pyro playground, and we were doing NPC bounties, and they just desyncing all over the place. It was bad.
My last stream, it was unplayable. Like the desync was occurring every 5 seconds and distances of like 2 to 3 kilometers. I was like, why am I even putting myself through this at a certain point? Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It is. It is. Since we're wrapping up here, one last question, and then we're gonna sign off. CitizenCon. I know we talked about it at the beginning. Are you on the hype train or are you off the hype train?
I'll go first. I would say, like, and I said this before too. Like, I'm mildly optimistic, right? I'm happy that they're making progress, but we've heard words before and we've seen things not be delivered as intended. So I don't have my hopes set or my expectations set very, very high. And that really helps me deal with um, when Star Citizen doesn't meet their own expectations. I can just kind of be like, well, this is just kind of par for the course, and I know this is going to be, the long haul. So I'm mildly optimistic. If they can deliver on everything, that's great. But me getting myself up so high just to be let down, like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'd say, I'm along the same lines. They've talked a really big game at CitizenCon this time around. They kind of hedged their bets, I think, the last couple years, but this time they're really aiming high. And so, if they hit half of that stuff, I'll be happy, I think. It looks like they've already got progress on tractor beams and Pyro. So if they can just make that, magical server meshing happen at scale, then that's going to be huge. I'm not sure I expect that to happen in the next year, but I do think we might see some of the other cool stuff coming, hopefully before that time period.
I try to not get on the hype trains anymore. It's done nothing but let me down. And I'm not saying Star Citizen, but I mean, I can go back in time to getting on the hype train when Disney put out their first Star Wars movie called The Force Awakens, and I was all about it. And then it let me down. And then the next movie, and we can talk comic books. I remember being hyped for a specific title, and it let me down. And I try not to do it anymore. Will I say, am I excited what I heard, what I saw from CitizenCon? Yeah. I try to hold it back because I know in the end there's a possibility we don't get much of it in the next year. And I try to keep that in the back of my mind when I feel myself going, ooh, new ship, or ooh, new feature, or ooh, 3.22 is coming. Ooh, Pyro. I try not to let it hype me up too much, but I'm human just like everybody else, and I do every once in a while feel me grabbing a hold of the hype train handle, and it's starting to pull me a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we get Pyro and we get the Legionnaire, like, yeah, I'm definitely excited for these things, but I think it's a safer bet to just say I'll see it when I see it, and I'm not gonna like sit here and
Exactly.
get all excited about it and like, oh, I gotta have it. Like, it's gonna come when it comes, and hopefully when it comes, it's in a decent state.
Yeah, yeah. I think honestly, you'll see me really get on the hype train if let's say September, October, November next year, I'm downloading the patch that has server meshing in Pyro, and it tells me it's going to take 8 hours, 19 minutes, and even if it says that, I'd be running around the house going, "Woo! It's finally here!" But
the hype is going to be real when we can actually access Pyro and PU for sure. There's going to be a huge level of excitement, and I hope their servers are prepared. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, is there?
I agree.
Well, let's wrap this up. Dirty's got a stream he's got to get to. Which, by the way, everybody go and visit Captain Dirty. He's going to be streaming here in a little bit. Make sure you check him out. He'll get into some pirate stuff. Marcus has been streaming. God, like almost 24/7. It seems like I wake up, there's a stream going. I go to bed while a stream is going. But make sure you go and check these guys out and give them a little bit of support. They're great guys. Is there anything else you would like to add before we go? And then we'll cut it.
Other than thanks for having me once again. It was a lot of fun chatting with you all, and I hope to do it again in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having this space, for talking Star Citizen, and go follow Captain Dirty and Scarred, follow myself, and we'll see you guys next time.
For sure. All right, guys, it's been fun. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. You guys all seem to have enjoyed yourselves too. Chat, thank you so much for being here, everybody. You know the drill. Hit the like, the sub button. Go and visit these guys. Do the same thing. And with that, so long. Thanks for all the fish.